Hello all. In this video, we are going to look into the topic creating employment opportunities in manufacturing sector. I'm Vivek Kumar, a student of IM3G, and I'll be talking about this topic today. So, when we talk of the manufacturing sector, manufacturing is a complex function which involves strategic utilization of technology, machinery, workforce, skill, etc. It leads to innovation of ideas that requires a workforce equipped with advanced technology skills. Hence, it can be regarded as a means of maximizing employability in the country. Let us have an overview of current manufacturing sector in India. Indian manufacturing sector contributes to 16% of GDP, while if we consider the percentage of workforce employed in manufacturing, this number comes down to 11.4% and has grown barely by 2% in over 40 years. Another important consideration here is that almost 85% of the employment in manufacturing sector is unorganized, while they just produce 22% of the output of the manufacturing sector. But this is the time when India could have an edge over the other global leaders of the world, considering the fact that Indian population is relatively young compared to the United States and especially to China. Only if working age adults are employed, India could tap into this resource effectively. The World Bank estimates that India must create 1 million jobs a month to keep up with these new job seekers. Rather, the best potential source of future growth lies in India's ability to foster a manufacturing sector that can capitalize on the abundance of labor. More than half of the adult population has the schooling needed for the most low-wage manufacturing jobs, and that share could rise above 60% in 20 years with reasonable education reforms. In order to tap this opportunity, the Indian government has set the benchmarks achievable by 2025. India aims to be a US $5 trillion economy by 2025. Currently, major portion of the GDP is contributed by agriculture. Obviously, service sector has given the push to Indian GDP after 2000, but somewhere it has reached its saturation level, and so it's high time India shifts its focus to manufacturing sector. Thus, the government has set the target of achieving 25% of GDP share by manufacturing sector. This target would create 100 million new jobs in India and could help manufacturing sector surpass $1 trillion mark by 2025. Now, let us shift our focus on the major reforms undertaken by India since its independence. Until 1980, India was under the grip of license permit Raj, wherein government controlled all the parameters of production. This Raj was further strengthened by MRTP Act 1970. This period was characterized by scarcity of resources. Further, in 1980s, imports were liberalized, industrial licensing equipments were relaxed, and export incentives were extended via tax system and liberal access to credit and foreign exchange. The major change in manufacturing sector came in 1990s when industrial licensing was abolished, trade was liberalized, including financial and investment sector. After 2000, India began to focus on uplifting its manufacturing infrastructure. This was achieved via clustering high-tech industries, setting up special economic zones and agri-economic zones to promote exports. State-level policies were formulated to attract investments. In the recent years, India has focused on structural transformation of manufacturing sector by starting new initiatives like ease of doing business, Startup India, promoting investment, tax and land reforms. Now let us focus on major initiatives taken by India to boost manufacturing sector in India. Make in India, an initiative which was launched in 2014 to encourage Indian as well as multinational companies to manufacture in India. After the launch of the program, India became the top destination globally for FDI in 2015. Initially, this program focused on 25 sectors of economy, which was further increased to 27 sectors, including financial services, education services, communication, legal, and audio services. Special cells called Japan Plus and Korea Plus have been made under the initiative to facilitate investment and fast-track proposals from Japan and Korea respectively. Make in India and other initiatives have helped India to improve its ease of doing business rank by 65 positions from 142 in 2014 to 77 in 2018 in World Bank's Ease of Doing Business report. Government reduced the income tax rate to 25% for all companies having a turnover of up to 250 crores. These actions helped India rank at 30th position on Global Manufacturing Index, ahead of its BRICS peers Brazil, South Africa, and Russia. The result in 2018, Samsung inaugurated world's biggest mobile phone factory in UP, which will double the company's mobile phone production to 120 million units by end of 2020. But did India really succeed in its objectives? Did Make in India really work? Given that big ticket projects for grand initiatives such as Make in India have long gestation periods and lag effects, assessments of such initiatives can be premature. But somewhere it has not yet made a mark up to the expectations, mainly owing to too ambitious growth rates of 12 to 14% per year, bringing in too many sectors into the consideration, and policy seems to be devoid of understanding of comparative advantages of domestic economy. Another initiative undertaken by government to boost employment and manufacturing sector is Skill India, which aims to train over 400 million people in various skills under schemes like National Skill Development Mission, Pradhan Mantri Kusal Vikas Yojana, and National Policy for Scheme Development and Entrepreneurship. Under Pradhan Mantri Kausal Vikas Yojana 1.0, 19.85 lakh candidates were trained, out of which 2.62 lakh candidates got placements. The second version of this Yojana trained over 52 lakh candidates, of which 12.60 lakh got placed. Further, government has introduced two World Bank associated projects, Sankalp scheme and Strive scheme, for skill development in country. These schemes aim to strengthen skills for industrial value enhancement while improving quality of skill in India. Another initiative, Startup India, which was launched in 2015 to encourage startups in India, set a clear definition of startup in India and offered various benefits to these budding startups, ranging from no inspection regarding labor laws for 3 years to income tax exemption for 3 years. Further, to promote innovation and research, government enabled the startups to claim 80% rebate on the patent costs to get promotion for intellectual property rights. This initiative has attracted various established firms like Software and Xiaomi to invest in startups in India, thus promoting manufacturing and innovation. One major policy brought in by India to achieve the target of increasing manufacturing sector share to 25% of GDP share by 2025 is National Manufacturing Policy 2011. This policy was introduced to enable policy framework and provide incentives for infrastructure development on public-private partnership basis. Under this policy, national investment in manufacturing zones have been conceived as large industrial townships managed by a special purpose vehicle which would ensure planning of zones for setting industrial plants. These industries in these SPVs would be exempted from compliance burdens, further to facilitate the acquisition of appropriate technologies, creation of talent pool, and development of domestic manufacturing. Technology Acquisition and Development Fund has been launched. The initiatives discussed until now have brought in tremendous boost to FDI majorly because of 100% FDI approval for manufacturing sector. FDI inflow in automobile, pharma, and chemical sector clocked the US dollar 23.5 billion, 16.2 billion, and 17.2 billion respectively. India became the top destination globally for FDI in 2015. But the initiatives under now have not worked wonders in manufacturing sector, and thus employment opportunities are still limited in this sector. In order to boost employment, some major strong actions need to be taken. India's manufacturing sector has been characterized by the missing middle, the concentration of small micro firms at one end of the spectrum and the large firms in each sector at the other. One purpose of an industrial policy is for the government to encourage scale economies by encouraging growth of small firms into bigger firms to fill the missing middle. India has almost 5,000 clusters spread across the country, where most unorganized segment manufacturing employment is concentrated. Also, cluster programs are administered by several ministries: textiles, leathers, food, MSME, heavy industry, under different terms and conditions. This fragmentation of policy must end. Serious planning for cluster requires industry planning, both at the center and state levels. There are at least four sets of actions required for cluster programs by the center: technology upgradation, skill development, market information facilitation, and design improvement. As of now, this sector is focused majorly on low-value manufacturing products, with limited spends on R&D and new technologies. Moving on to high value added sector equipped with latest technologies would enable this sector to create huge job opportunities. To fix the problem of limited innovation and low quality in Indian manufacturing sector, we need a second wave of liberalization. It should proceed on twin tracks, push improvement in global competitiveness of large corporates and uncycle the MSMEs to compete globally. We need to liberalize the tariffs and let the large corporates fight out for their share of domestic demand. However, adequate notice has to be given to the Indian corporates. A coordinated step with the pre-existing initiatives and the recommendations listed here could enable manufacturing sector to scale up and probably achieve its targets of generating over 100 million new jobs by 2025.